To the Middle East now, where US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is holding a day of talks with top officials in Israel as he seeks a ceasefire agreement for Gaza. It's the latest stop on his diplomatic dash to the region, which has included meetings with Qatari and Egyptian officials who brokered the current draft deal. Hamas has responded positively to the plan. Mediators are cautiously optimistic that Israel can still reach an agreement with Hamas, which carried out the October 7th terror attack. Well, the exact details of the proposal aren't clear, but according to media reports, here's what the framework deal, mediated by the US, Qatar and others, looks like. So it would be broken down into 3 phases that would see an initial 6-week pause in fighting, an exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners, and an increase in aid deliveries to Gaza. And if all of those steps prove successful, they could then set the stage for negotiations about a permanent ceasefire. Meanwhile, in the last few hours, we've learned details of Hamas's counterproposal, submitted shortly before Antony Blinken touched down, and that's raising questions about the potential outcome of negotiations. So let's see if Rebecca Ritters in Jerusalem can shed some light on this. Welcome, Rebecca. What are you hearing about this Hamas counterproposal?
Well, Phil, as you say, details aren't 100% clear. The Hamas proposal hasn't been made public, but from the reports that we're hearing, as you mentioned, it was the original framework set out in Paris a little over a week ago was received positively by Hamas, but that they have offered a counter-proposal. They want to see 45 days of ceasefire in a first phase, and that would see the release of the women, children, basically all of the civilians left in Gaza to be released in exchange for a yet undetermined number of Palestinian prisoners and, as well as you mentioned, a great deal of aid to be brought into Gaza Strip. In a second phase, if that all goes to plan, a second phase would see the remaining living hostages released in exchange for yet more prisoners and more aid. And then in a third phase, should that come to fruition, then we would see the release of any of the bodies that are currently in Gaza, any of the people who were either taken in already have been killed in Israel and taken across as bodies, or the people that have died subsequently inside Gaza since they were taken there on October 7. So that would be a third phase. Now, what they're suggesting, or what they're proposing or asking for is the differences are small, but they are significant. They're asking for a higher level of prisoner to be released. They want to see some prisoners who are in Israeli prisons under life sentences to be released. Now, what we saw in the deal that happened in November, where more than 100 hostages were released, we saw only women and youths released from prison. So that is another request that they're asking, and they're also asking for a full withdrawal of Israeli troops and an end to the war, a permanent ceasefire. Now, those are things that Benjamin Netanyahu and his far-right coalition have said that they wouldn't get behind. So we are likely to see now another counter-proposal from Israel and further negotiations.
Right. And the bottom line for the Israelis is what? What are they looking for in any agreement?
Well, I think, Phil, both sides want to come away from this looking like neither have really given many concessions. I think that's certainly clear in what we're seeing and what we saw in November and again now. Now, the Israelis definitely under pressure to bring home the hostages. The families in Israel of the people still remaining in Gaza have been protesting, have been putting a lot of pressure on the government for a limited ceasefire to see their loved ones returned home. That is definitely a priority, or something that the Israeli government have had to take or are taking very seriously as they try to quell the dissent that's happening within the country. So that's certainly something that it's a high price, and it's something that they are willing to, of course, give some sacrifices for. But they have come out staunchly saying that they would not agree to a permanent ceasefire nor a full withdrawal of Israeli troops, which is what the Hamas side are asking for. So the devil in the detail there. You know, we still could see negotiations carrying on for some time yet.
Thanks for that, Rebecca. DW correspondent Rebecca Ritters in Jerusalem.